Oh, look, another glorious sunset before 5 o'clock.
Makes me sick!
When I was a kid, I loved winter. I mean, I was born on a snowy New York City day in February. You get to look forward to school closures and throw snowballs in the front yard, but once you get old enough, winter is no longer child's play, it's a nuisance. And while the leaves changing is beautiful, it also represents what's to come. Shorter, colder days and what feels like never-ending torture of oversized jackets and beanies. In my last years of living in New York City, I found myself coming home from work and going straight to bed, refusing to go out and do anything. Seasonal affective disorder, anyone? So I moved to Los Angeles and was immediately enamored with the temperate climate and sunshine. But in time, I learned that maybe as Northeasterners expect perfection on the West Coast, and really what we get is sad. Here's why. So, you know that whole idea of this sunshine tax in California, how it's so expensive here because everyone wants to move here for that wonderful ray of sunshine? As a sun worshiper myself, I need it to thrive. I'm basically a plant. But it's November and it's dark for more than half the day. And just last night, I was sitting on the couch playing on my phone alone, wondering why I was so unhappy in that moment. I was saying to myself, man, times were so much easier before 2020. Because, let's be real, they kind of were. But I've also had some of the best years of my life since, so why was I being nostalgic for a time that I wasn't really always happy in? Well, it was because it was 5:30 p.m. and it was dark as f***. And man, it's difficult to have a positive mindset when it's just endlessly dark. This is why plants die without sunlight. So here's the first thing I learned about shorter days so far. When you're freezing in the Northeast, where I'm from, and it's 4:30 p.m., you romanticize a life with endless sunshine. A place like Los Angeles. Only to find out when you move here that it's still always dark. How depressing to live in a place with great weather and still not able to fully enjoy it after work. In desperate times like these, I find myself doing what I do best. Shopping at Target. Specifically, the Christmas section, because Christmas means merry and bright, and outside means dark and scary. So I find the saddest thing about living alone is that you find yourself being a homebody more. Without roommates, you have no one to escape from and no real reason to say, I need some alone time, I'm going out. Today it's Thursday, November 9th, and the sun sets at 4:54 p.m. And I tried to go out for a little hike before it's too dark out, and I realized I stayed in my apartment all day and worked and never got my steps in. And just like clockwork, obviously, the sun sets at 4:54 p.m. I have to say, the sunsets here hit so much different than the East Coast. If only they were a little later. But even with great sunsets every evening, comes something that's missing when you live in Southern California, and that's seasons, or at least seasonal FOMO. Here's what people don't tell you about living in SoCal after a few years. You get a little bored. Even when you can walk outside in November and say, oh my god, it's so beautiful out, like I'm doing right now. But there is still a Groundhog Day effect that happens here. I even find myself using my bedroom projector to show me sights and sounds of a cold, snowy day to relax my sun-fried mind. Who would have thought? Sometimes I want cold autumn days. Sometimes I want to walk down the street with orange leaves at my feet. Sometimes I want to go to a pumpkin patch and get an apple pie. But in Los Angeles, you can't really do that. Each year, I find myself gravitating to a new location where I can get those fall vibes. 2 years ago, it was at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery on a gray, gloomy day. Last year, it was in the mountains at Lake Arrowhead. And this year, all I've gotten so far is binging Gilmore Girls and longing for this fantasy town called Stars Hollow, where all they really do is walk around and drink coffee. So, I think I need something more. And this year, ooh, it's getting dark. This year, I think it'll be this town called Julian. Julian is a small town just an hour east of San Diego in the Cuyamaca Mountains. It is known for its small town charm, old-fashioned buildings, and its famous apple pies. Let's see if it's actually like Stars Hollow. I haven't seen real fall foliage in years.
We are in Julian, California.
What is it known for?
Pie, and I'm ready for some.
Then let's go get some apple pie. Julian definitely gives off small town vibes. You can walk all of Main Street in just a matter of minutes and stop into some of the really cool souvenir shops along the way. Since Julian is known for their apple pies and baked goods, you can pick up some weird flavored syrups like prickly pear syrup, and the stores are decked out in seasonal items that make you feel like it's fall and Christmas town. And of course, you have to stop at Julian Pie Company, no matter how long the line is. I have never been more in the mood for apple pie than after being in this little town of Julian.
The weight is killing me. Oh my god.
Look at these
With
pies.
ice cream on top, too.
Look at these pies. I am ready to dig in.
Let's try this out. Tastes like your grandma's apple pie.
And this is your crazy grandma's apple pie, I would say. Cinnamon ice cream. And boysenberry.
Okay, not the healthiest lunch. I think I'm gonna have a sugar crash very soon.
Well worth it. I could have this for lunch every single day if it was healthy.
While Julian may have put me in a sugar nap, it also did a good job of filling the autumn void I was looking for, especially with some fall foliage that you don't always get near the beach. And once you get past fall and the holidays, you can kind of laugh at your northeast counterparts who are dealing with the cold and the snow, unless you lived in California in 2023. Because we need to talk about how odd and unusual the weather patterns have been this year. It literally started on New Year's Day, where it downpoured in a place that never rains, and it continued for pretty much all of January. I was living in San Diego for that month and only got a handful of sunny days. I would joke and even call it Seattle, California. In my first 2 years living in California, I think I could count on one hand how many times it rained. Then, all of a sudden, non-stop. Even though I've grown to love the rain, when it's raining every day and supposedly the sunniest city in America, what a downer. But then to top it off, in March, a historic blizzard struck Southern California where the mountains got record-breaking snowfall, the Hollywood sign received a light dusting, it flurried while I hiked Echo Mountain, and I made snow angels at the top of Mount Baldy. Truly a memorable week, but as someone who isn't a meteorologist, I'm still unclear why I experienced a once-in-a-lifetime blizzard when I was trying to escape that type of weather. At least I got to live out nostalgic childhood though. Watch my blizzard vlog if you miss childhood, you won't regret it. However, all this rain and snow did lead to a pretty awesome super bloom, which occurred in April and had me frolicking through the flowers.
It is the most beautiful, amazing thing I've ever seen.
Ever?
Ever. Never take it for granted.
And right after this super bloom came the super gloom, with a marine layer that sucked away the sun for what felt like an eternity. Nobody really tells you how gloomy it actually is here in the early summer until you experience it yourself. In fact, this year, there wasn't a complete day of sunshine in San Diego from February all the way into mid-summer. The last time that happened was the 1960s. I hope to see a tax rebate for this sunshine tax this year, if only. And then let's not forget about, more recently, Hurricane Hillary. Hurricane Hillary is coming for us. While generally a fluke because the news channels were predicting the day after tomorrow and Californians were going out of their minds, why was there a hurricane off the coast of California again? For the second time this year, I experienced the nostalgia of both being excited and nervous for a big storm. I think there is a storm coming. And I mean, all that really happened was extreme heavy rain and an earthquake at the same time. What they called a hurricane. No big deal, right? Although I have to say, the night before the storm was probably the most stunning sunset I've seen on the West Coast. I'm running to catch this sunset the night before the storm because it is absolutely the craziest sunset I've ever seen.
What in the world?
This whole year's weather patterns in California felt surreal, and while the weather patterns were too inconsistent to feel exactly like the Northeast, it kind of felt like living there all year long. Better luck next year? I feel like a reason why people in Los Angeles are so afraid of aging is because time just slips away from you here. Without proper seasons and more sunlight giving you wrinkles, aging becomes scarier when you don't actually feel like time is passing. It's like you blink and realize 3 years have gone by and you still haven't seen snow. I'm not sure about you, but I remember things in my life based on the weather. For example, a song from my winter 2019 playlist can bring me back to just walking down a cold street in New York in January. Now, it's not like I want to complain about this because I love warm weather. I don't like the colds. It's just some things that you start to pick up on after living here. Because even though I'll probably be hanging out at the beach tomorrow and forget about this topic entirely. What was I complaining about yesterday again? Right now what I'm saying is maybe humans were meant to have seasons. Or on the other hand, maybe it's just a matter of growing up with most of America and the world with seasonal patterns and distinctions, and realizing seasonal affective disorder will continue to follow you whether you live in Southern California or Florida, just in different ways you wouldn't expect. Because yes, it still gets dark way too early. We can't change that. Actually, we kinda can. And whether it's intense nostalgia you get where there's a freak blizzard, or hiding in your home during a hurricane or hurricane, or generally just forgetting that you're aging while the weather is not, all I'm saying, good or bad, it messes with your head a little bit. Because seasonal depression morphs instead into seasonal trauma, where I can't tell if I need a snowstorm right now to help me feel better, or it's just the inner child longing for a sense of familiarity in time. But I guess, especially after this year, I can continue doing what us East Coasters do best, complaining about the weather. Because if you can't complain about the weather, what is small talk even good for? Hello, good morning. Pretty good, how are you? It's nice and warm out here. Can't complain.